And gentlemen, I'm your host, Keith Andrew, and the following is brought to you by the KeithAndrewNetWork. You're watching the talk show host of a learning disability. This is only available on YouTube, where you get to enjoy 1,200 episodes. With that being said, we have a great guest. We're going to hear from him in a couple minutes, but for people who want to know, what is the KeithAndrewNetwork? Whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities that never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. Prove to them, still amount to something. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to start off with icebreakers.
The whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having learning disabilities, I can still amount something. At the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there. Never give up and prove people wrong no matter what. Hey, show them labels do not dictate who you are going to be. Keith Andrew Network. Shatter your expectations. It is my destiny. Prove people wrong in this world. Find ways to shatter your expectations. Don't let disabilities define you. Don't be left behind. Go ahead.
Hi everybody, I'm Jacob Hayek. I was just interviewed by Keith Andrews on the Keith Andrews Network. It was a pleasure and honor to be here, and I look forward to coming back soon.
The first subject we're going to talk about is icebreakers. You already heard from a guest, but you're going to hear from him again. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, welcome. I'm Jacob Hayek. It's a pleasure to be here. As I said, my name's Jacob. I like to go by Jack. Makes me sound older. Um,
Well, Jack, it's a real honor and privilege having you with us. So I just want to say thank you for supporting a talk show host with a disability.
I'm happy to be here. Absolutely.
Now, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Just gonna give a little background about myself. Um, I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1996. I lived there till I was about 5, and I moved to Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Um, Spent most of my life there. And it wasn't until I was about 17, 18, just when I was about to graduate high school, um, I was torn actually between wanting to be either a filmmaker, which I ended up becoming, or funny enough, a professional wrestler. Um,
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's okay. Yeah, so I ended up going into filmmaking. I attended the New York Film Academy from 2015 to 2016. Um, my thesis film, the Jim Crow Holocaust, ended up winning about 15 awards worldwide, which is a really cool experience. And yeah, so in around that time, I also started a production company with my father, Fady Hayek, called Birds of Prey Films, and we've been running that company ever since. And yeah, lately I've been engaged in a short film project and hoping to secure a really cool deal with some let's just say high profile people. Fingers crossed.
Well,
And,
hopefully I'm one of them, right?
oh, of course.
So the first, well, there's two subjects I want to talk to you about. And I didn't mean to interrupt before, but you mentioned professional wrestling, and that was like, oh, you took, what are you, a mind reader? Because I was going to say that was a perfect segue, but we can get to that in a couple minutes. But let's stay on the father-son duo. So the question I want to ask you is, what attracted you to start your career and start working with your father in creating your own company?
Oh, yes, that's a good question. So it's weird. I think I've just always been something of a storyteller ever since I was a kid. I was always drawn to specific movies, TV shows, stories. And one of the subjects I excelled in school was actually writing. And wrote a few stories for, regular class assignments. But yeah, I was just, I don't know, I always felt like I was just some kind of storyteller. I just didn't know what medium I wanted to go in. Um, and yeah, ultimately, I I did sort of a mock script when I was just out of high school, just for fun, and I found I really enjoyed it, and that was basically the segue to me wanting to become not just a screenwriter, but a director, a producer, and yeah. So so we actually started. My dad and I started the company while I was still in school, because we knew we were going to need something, or I was going to need something to be able to fall back on, to be able to, basically promote, create all my future projects. But as to why my dad and I decided to do it, well, he's actually a big he's actually a big part of the music industry. So, needless to say, there's a bit of artistic flair that runs in the family.
Well, the
um,
door's always open. He's more than welcome to be a guest on the show.
oh yeah, I think he'd absolutely love that. Definitely let him know. Um, yeah, so we decided, hey, why not start a production company, and we'll work together, and we'll get our own equipment, we'll fund our own projects, we'll keep it the way we like to make it, and just continue from there.
Well, that goes to the next segue. And you mentioned you wanted to be a professional wrestler. Who inspired you to become a professional wrestler? For me, my childhood hero is the legendary Bret the Hitman Hart.
Mm, good choice. Yeah, so the funny thing is, I actually didn't become a professional wrestling fan till I was about 16. And I actually remember distinctively why I like the first televised match I ever saw. I believe it was Alberto Del Rio versus Rey Mysterio on SmackDown, WWE. And I saw it at a friend's house, and ever since then I got hooked. And to this day, I'm still a hardcore wrestling fan. But the one wrestler who inspired me to want to become a professional wrestler was The Undertaker. Actually, I don't know if you could see, I got a tattoo of his symbol here.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Have you actually watched his podcast, 6 Feet Under? It's actually, or yeah, 6 Feet Under. It's actually really good.
Yeah, I've heard some of his stuff and some of the guests he has, and he's told some very funny behind the scenes stories. One of them I distinctly remember involved where it was mid 2000s or early 2000s, something like that. And Undertaker, he felt like, oh, I just, am I getting old? And then this other wrestler, new guy, walks in and says to him, hey, I used to have your toy when I was a kid. And he literally cursed him out the door as he was thinking that.
I like the one where his co-host says to him, "You know who should have broken the streak? A cucumber." And it's like I said, it's uncensored. You can curse if you want to. Do you want me to curse?
Yeah, 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 that's fine.
He says again with the fucking cucumber. It's like I don't know who came up with this. I am not scared of cucumbers. I don't know who said that. I want to go punch them right in the face. So think about The Undertaker versus a cucumber, 21 and 1, and the winner is a cucumber.
And honestly, I that reminds me of this. I mean, it was a planned segment, of course, but there was this segment where Triple H was says, I'll," where there's this whole walkout segment happening in the like early 2010s, and he's like, I'll wrestle a broomstick for an hour if I have to.
No, I like Paul. Triple H. Even though he's an asshole, but he is one of the greats.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. And honestly, like, I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth with WWE these days, but like, I mean, he's def creatively and definitely morally, he's a lot better than Vince ever was. That's for sure.
That's true. And going back to a funny segment, it's back in 2001, he was teaming with Kurt Angle. And that's when they were doing a whole love triangle, Triple H, Kurt Angle, and Stephanie.
Yeah.
And Kurt says, well, try going through a whole match without accidentally hitting your wife. And Triple H says, well, how about you try going for a match with accidentally not hitting on me? But
They got
that's when it was funny. My biggest thing is it's not the fact that it's PG. That's not the problem because Monday Nitro and during the whole Monday Night Wars, it was PG and but it was still entertaining. It's just the fact they try to water it down and kind of, I guess this is a word, or maybe I'm just making it up, stupefy it, where it's saying, okay, yes, it's catering to kids, but you don't have to make it stupid. But you have
yeah.
to have that in between.
Yeah, I mean, that was the problem was like it got to a point where like yeah, all right, we get it. You're trying to cater to everyone, friends, kids and parents alike. But there is a point where you're just so far out there that you're actually insulting the intelligence of not just the adult audience, but the child's audience as well, because it just some of the stuff was just way out there and just didn't make sense both creatively and I don't know the word for it, but yeah.
I have that effect on people, but it's a good segue. We can be talking about this. Obviously, people leaked it out, and the best thing and the worst thing ever invented was the internet. For an example, meeting you, wonderful thing. That's the best thing. But in the worst way is they ruin wrestling because yes, we know sometimes you have to pre-record it. They're in another country. So here's an example. Tonight on Netflix is WWE Monday Night Raw, where you get to see, and it's on the screen as we're talking. Tonight
Yeah.
on Raw, you're gonna see Gunther versus one of the Usos. You gotta see AJ Styles versus Paul Logan. He sucks, but I like AJ. My opinion. You're gonna see a great promo between John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. You know, for someone who my biggest thing about that real fast is John Cena. If John Cena never ever turned heel and
Mm.
he did become a bad guy, okay, that would be a huge thing because Hulk Hogan for the past 20 years was the ultimate good guy.
Yeah.
But if you would look back, and yeah, Hogan started off as a bad guy, but he was a nobody. But John Cena wasn't the doctor of thugonomics, and he just randomly decided he's going to be a quote unquote heel. Then it's what, oh my God, it's 1996 all over again.
Mm.
It's just the fact he's like good guy, good, bad. It's kind of like, who cares? You just need that long strain. But yes, tonight you guys see Cody Rhodes and John Cena. Also, the women's title match, and spoiler, it ends in a disqualification match. Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. And the reason I say on the internet ruins things, if you didn't know about it, you
Hmm.
say, I can't wait to see it tonight at 8 o'clock. But it was about 3, 4 o'clock, and the results were already on. It was on Instagram, it was on TikTok, and I'm like, well, if I can see it on Instagram and TikTok, why the hell do I have to wait until 8 o'clock to see the actual show? That's why the
Yeah.
internet, it's a blessing and a curse. You get to meet great people like yourself, but also it hurts the industry because maybe you don't want to spoilers. Maybe you don't want to know about certain things. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's so the events I actually go to indie events with a friend of mine, Josh Cutler. He's been a fan since the Hogan era. And like every single show we go to, exactly. Almost every single show we go to, you're seeing some high class storytelling, high class wrestling. It's like, and that's the thing is like I feel like the other issue, especially nowadays, is with the bigger promotions, it's like when you go to a live event, a smaller event with like maybe 500 people max that can fit in the room, um, or maybe even actually even 1,000, I would say. Um, then you're right up front with the action. You see the whole thing. It feels more special, and it feels like a much tighter knit group. It doesn't feel like it's because I mean that's the thing. I mean it could yeah, I mean it could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your audience, depending on who you are as a person, that kind of a thing. But I mean it just feels more special when it's that close and it's more tight knit because you can tell these are the most passionate, these are the most energetic, the most fun, and when you're seeing that action like that, especially up close, it's like nothing else. It's like you feel like you're a part of it.
No, I agree with you. If you watch last week's episode and tonight's episode, I think they're over in England right now, England or Italy, and the fans
Yeah.
are so loud. That's why it was pre-recorded because there's a time difference. But they were so loud and they were involved in it. Sometimes, and especially in New York, I'm not your typical New Yorker, but it's sometimes with the New York audience, they know it's scripted but they're physically loud and it's exciting. But there's some states, they're just dead silence, or they're kind of comatose and they don't care.
Yeah.
But that goes to my next segment I want to talk to you about. It's productions. As someone has his own company, what were some of your favorite production films, and what films are you working on?
Oh yeah. So at the beginning of the company, aside from my short film, the Jim Crow Holocaust, we did primarily trade shows, just as a start, because yeah, we as a production company, we didn't want to limit ourselves to what we do. Basically, if it involves a camera and audio, we'll do it. Everything from a feature film to a small podcast kind of a thing. Um, but yeah, so I mean, doing the trade shows that was fun because we met people like Alan Parson. Um, he was the recording artist for bands like the Beatles, like uh, there was one more. I'm forgetting which one it was, but yeah, I mean he was big in the music industry as well as the recording artist for Rush, the band Rush. Um, Another trade show we did was the AES show that's held every year in New York. We interviewed a bunch of big time music artists. Um, we even got to meet Stevie Wonder, really cool. But yeah, I mean, seeing I think especially at that point, you're starting off, you got these what a lot of people would consider bigger jobs. It gives you enthusiasm, because oh, you're at this level now. Oh, you're doing your job the way you should, and you get to meet all these amazing, fun people. Um, but yeah, so now at this point, we're really trying to ramp up the productions of not just my projects, but we want to give others a chance to do so as well. Other directors, producers, screenwriters. So right now we're really in a phase that we want to give opportunities and be able to create what we'd like and really expand on our portfolio. Right now, I'm actually shooting my next short film. We're currently on hiatus just to secure more funding, but it's a martial arts post-apocalyptic film, and The premise behind it can easily be made, and I'm hoping to turn it into a feature film someday. Because the premise behind it is very well, I won't spoil it, but it's very it's very interesting, and it asks a lot of questions.
Funny you should mention that is because I saw a video last night where someone asks Alexa what happens in the year 28, I think '09 or some shit like that. But what happens in the year 28? And it says, oh, a zombie virus breaks out. And I'm like, hopefully I'm dead before that happens. But I mean, I don't want to know. That's, and again, if it's technology and AI, it's kind of like, and that's a perfect thing. I want to give a shout out to Character AI. You can download it. You can pay for it or it's free. You can get it from the Apple Store or the Google Store. What Character AI is pretty much you can have a conversation with Optimus Prime, past celebrities, and it's in their voice. So it's some of them are really good. Some of them are kind of hit and miss. But I would definitely give a shout out and recommend to anyone. Definitely, if you're interested in having a conversation with your favorite cartoon celebrities or fictional characters, definitely check out Character AI. But the next one I want to talk to you while we're still on the subject. New subject I want to talk about is goals. Have you reached your goals so far, or are you always reaching higher to reach new ones?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I look at it as I have, yes, I have a goal that I haven't reached yet. But even if I achieve that goal, or when I achieve that goal, I still am always looking for something higher. That's just the kind of person I am. Like, I'm the kind of person that, like, you ask my parents when I was a baby, I could not sit still for a minute. And that really hasn't changed even now that I'm an adult. So, um, yeah, so I would say like for right now, my goal is because we're still in that early phase of the company where we're still getting a stable ground and stable income and everything and have a constant flow of projects. And we're still in that beginning stage. So when we pass that stage, I really like to just ask myself, well, okay, what do I want to do next? And that's the thing. I always come up with something I want to do next because I mean, there's an old saying, if you're not learning, you're dying, and that's one of the many things I live by. So,
Like I said, I do have some great ideas that I think will be beneficial for both of us. But this is actually another good segue, and finding good ways to say the word segues is what is your biggest fear, and is time your friend or enemy?
so, so what my biggest fear is, that's honestly hard to answer. Because like I feel like there's always something to be afraid of, especially when you're in an industry that's based on creativity, the most unreliable media source in history, but also produces some of the most memorable and amazing experiences for everybody. So I feel like as an artist in general, you always have a big fear, whether it's I'm gonna fail and I'm not gonna succeed, or this is going to be the end of me, or this is going to stress me out beyond belief. So I feel like, there's no real big fear, but there is a constant fear. And that's honestly not a bad thing, in my opinion, because it in a sense, it keeps me motivated, to want to move past it, to conquer it, to become a better version of myself, and to always be humble, to put my best work forward and to stay true to it.
What were some of your favorite social medias that helped you develop your career and company, and what are some of the websites you would recommend?
Oh, you mean platform wise?
Yes.
Oh,
Because we all know there's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, but what I'm asking you is, what are the ones you would recommend and that helped you get more exposure?
Right, right. So funny enough, I think I mean I know it's not the most popular thing now, but I do think Facebook is still a very viable source to advertise yourself and what you do. Mostly because unlike other platforms which are like Instagram, for example, they're in shorter stories. They're like everything has to be condensed into one sort of picture or a quote or something. Whereas Facebook, you can be more detailed, you can show more stuff, you can post more links. Um, Not to say that I would also recommend Instagram if you're doing like, for example, when we're while we were shooting my film, the martial arts film, we used Instagram to showcase our costumes, to showcase behind the scenes pictures and some footage and stuff. And that was a great platform to reach out to a lot of people, especially because more people use Instagram now than they do Facebook. But I would still recommend Facebook just because it's been around for the longest time now, late 2000s. So the amount of people on it is, I would argue, could be much bigger. And also because it allows you to do and post more things than other major social media platforms nowadays.
And then the other last news segment we're going to have is headlines. So these are some of the headlines that I saw, but I just want to run past it. You can respond to it if you choose. If
Mhm.
not, you have the right not to. The first headline we're going to talk about, it's time to worry about the bird flu affecting the animals. And then, as you see on the picture on the screen, the bird flu is now affecting cats. And it's really scary because it's like COVID. It will continue to mutate. Hopefully, there is an antidote and we won't have another freaking pandemic. So, if you have your cats, make sure they're vaccinated, keep them safe. But as you're talking about production, I found this one really interesting because everyone needs to have an scapegoat. Everyone
Mhm.
likes to point their finger. I'm not where I want to be, or this failed, or this interview sucked because of you, or because I'm not a good host. Everyone wants to have an scapegoat.
Mhm.
So, what it's funny because it says it right here on the screen, Snow White was a failure because Rachel, I'm gonna butcher her last name, the main character, Rachel, was turned into an scapegoat for an iconic film. So what they're saying is it's her fault that Snow White sucked. So it's kind of like, how about you take responsibility? Yes, we tried something new. We turned Snow White into a film that didn't really work out. How
Mhm.
you're in production, it's really shitty to blame one person just because to say, well, it didn't really work out, but it's your fault.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think that just blaming it solely on her is overstretched. Because I mean, as and again, this is just my opinion, but like there's been it's part of a running trend, an unfortunate running trend in the film industry that's been happening for a long time now. And I would argue that it's yeah, one of the latest examples of what the problem is. And that is it's honestly comes down to a lack of real creative integrity and basically the inability to understand that you can't please everybody. As hard as that might be to hear, you can't please everybody. You know, there's a reason why they do these demographics that say, oh, like for example, men love action adventure films and sci-fi films, and women love rom-coms and there was musicals. You know, that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. You know, there's an audience for everyone. It's one of the oldest sayings in the industry. Um, And I think the problem is when you try to pander to everybody, then you're end up pandering to nobody. The other issue I have, especially with the bigger companies, and I know this will probably hurt me in the future, but you know what? I don't care. Is that they believe throwing more money at a problem will fix it, and the problem there is like it was never about the money. Like one of the biggest examples of an amazing movie that was also a box office hit was Godzilla minus one. And I'm not just saying that because admittedly I'm a lifelong Godzilla fan, been so since I was 5 years old. But yeah, so that movie was done on a budget of 10, $15 million max. And yet its CGI was great. Is it perfect? No. But its acting, its cinematography, its story, everything about it was carefully put together, and it was obviously done by people who love what they do. And that's it. And that's the problem is like you, then again, this is just my from what I've seen. There's so many films and shows and everything nowadays where you get the sense that the people behind them just don't care enough to put in that extra mile to show that they love what they're doing.
No, I agree
Yeah.
with you. We're going over time, but I do, as we were talking, there's one more segment that did appear on screen. You don't have to acknowledge it if you don't want to. Donald Trump wants to run for a third term. For me, God help us, but we can always save that for another segment. But what's on the screen, I just want to point that out to you. But I do have a couple questions for you off the air. This will be shared on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and all social medias. It's a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. I'm looking forward to part two. And until we meet again, I catch you later. Thank you and have a good night.